Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me. We are going to be talking about living with anxiety and PTSD, and this is part 5 of my story. This is going to conclude what I've been talking about. We've talked about my experience, the days following. We talked about me going to counseling, and the last thing we talked about was going to court. And today we're just going to talk about my life now. How am I surviving all of this? How do I function on a day-to-day basis? You know, I've had a lot of people talk to me and just say how strong I am, and they don't know how they would function and do this after it happens. And up until now, until this very moment, I never have an answer for you because you don't know until you've been in it. And every day it's different for me as well. But I'm just going to share my experience from the time that I started getting a little bit better and a little bit more comfortable with the idea that this was going to be with me forever till now. So let's just kind of jump into it. I have some notes because I don't want to miss anything for you guys, and if you can tell by my appearance, school is almost out. Like, we are just trying to survive, and it's a Friday. So just let me, if I look up, I'm just looking at some notes so that I don't forget to tell you guys anything. Anyway. So one of the major things after this all took place and after the court and all of that is I wish I could tell you that after justice is served that things just go back to being okay. But the reality is it's not. This PTSD and anxiety will live on inside of me for the rest of my life, and it's super unfortunate. And the bad part about that is you never know when it's going to rear its ugly head and when it's going to surprise you and go, just kidding, today you're going to have a horrible day. Because I don't really get to control that. It's not something that I have control of making it not show up. I have control of how I respond to it, but not when it shows up. So that's the ugly truth. It doesn't go away, and I still deal with it often. But, you know, one of the major things that was horrible for me is that I couldn't stay asleep when Steve left. So so I think I told you guys I got off of medicine so that I could get pregnant with Payson, and Steve started, or he was opening a new store that was about an hour and a half away, and he had to be there by 6. So Steve was getting up at like 3:30 in the morning and leaving by 4:30, which meant I was up by 4:30 every single morning because I was so scared that I could not stay in my bed. So I would get up and I would go downstairs and I would lay on my couch and either watch TV or try to get a little bit more sleep, but I had to be downstairs because I had to be able to hear what was going on in my house. So I can't even tell you how long, I would get up every morning with Steve and be awake at whatever time he was. So I was never getting great quality sleep, and as you know, in everyday life, that just affects everything. So that was one of the major things that it took forever to be able to stay upstairs. And when I got to that point where I could start staying upstairs, when he left in the morning, I had to go down, make sure the garage was actually shut, because that one time he forgot, I never trusted him, honestly, and I still struggle with that. And, you know, I had to make sure he had set the alarm, and all of these things took place. It was like a ritual. It's kind of like OCD, which I was diagnosed with as well. I think that came before the event, but definitely you saw a lot of this OCD stuff come out because I just had to make sure I was safe. But I couldn't stay in bed by myself. Don't even talk about, we will talk about this, but don't even talk about me trying to sleep at my house without Steve there. But that was huge as well. And during this time, I got really close with our neighbors that live next door. They started watching Raylan for me when I went to counseling, and we started forming a friendship, and they are some of our very best friends today, and literally like our second family. And, you know, I got better about staying home and being able to spend time alone in our house, but I had moments, like if a car that I didn't know just seemed suspicious in our neighborhood, like drove by a couple times or whatever, I would get really freaked out, and I would usually rely on our neighbors, Amber and Debbie, to go over to their house and just hang out for a while, because some days I just couldn't do it. I wasn't strong enough. And if nobody was around to be that person for me, because I traveled around the neighborhood to different homes, depending on who was home. Thank goodness that we had awesome neighbors around, because they took us in like we were family and just let me hang out with my baby whenever we couldn't do it. But if nobody was around, I left. I went shopping. I did something that got me out of the house so that I didn't have to sit there and just constantly feel anxious. I would give it some time, but if it wasn't working, I left because I couldn't sit there and be miserable for that long. Another one that was huge, and this has been continuous, like up until this day. There was no way that you were going to catch me showering when Steve was not home. That was like the ultimate fear factor. Is my shower was in the back of my house, and I would have never heard my doorbell. I would have never heard anything. So let me tell you about the showering. For, I don't know, probably over a year, I could not shower without Steve being there. And then I advanced on to calling Amber and Debbie and saying, hey, I need to take a shower. Can you watch out your window and make sure that nothing happens to my house or me while I'm in the shower? So thank goodness for these amazing people in my life who were willing to keep an eye on me. I laugh now because it seems so ridiculous, but the reality was this was my life for a very long time. And I would ask them and be like, you know, can you guys just look at my house while I take a shower and text me if anything is going on. And of course, they were wonderful. If they were home, they would do that. If they weren't home, I didn't shower. But I had, again, another ritual that I did when I was showering. This is what my steps looked like when I was showering. I would lock all my doors. Of course, they were already locked. I had those bars under the door that I was talking about. And that'll be in my blog later in case you're interested in them. I would take a gun, the loaded gun, into the bathroom. And I would lock my bedroom door, I would lock my bathroom door, I would put Raylan in her bouncer, I had the gun, I had my cell phone, I had my keys because we had a key fob for our alarm on our keys. That's how we could set it from upstairs. So I'd make sure it was set, and if I got scared, I could push the panic button and it would call the security people. What else did I have? Oh yeah, so we still use this today. We have our old baby monitor. And the part that you would put in the kids' room, the one that, you know, that you talk into, I don't know what part that's called. We had that sitting on our bar downstairs by the doorbell and by the front door so that if we were upstairs, I could hear it. So we had the receiving end in our bedroom. So when I would shower as well, I would take that into the bathroom so if somebody rang our doorbell, I would be able to hear it. And we still use this today because it makes me feel amazing. So just a thought, if you've never thought of using a baby monitor that way, you definitely can. But that is the only way I could even attempt to take a shower. And I took a shower, the fastest shower you could think of. I never shaved whenever Steve wasn't home. Anything that took longer than necessary, I did not do when he wasn't home. That was saved for when I had the security of Steve. But this went on for years, and I can't tell you the exact day. I'm sure my mom remembers this. When I called, it might have been when we moved to this house, but I remember saying, I took a shower by myself with nobody knew I was showering, and it was this ridiculous moment where I'm like, it's so sad that I'm so excited about this, but it was so rewarding that I had gotten to the point where I could take a shower by myself and feel at least okay, a little bit okay doing it. It was scary and I hated it, but I did it, and it was like this huge monumental place that I had gotten to in my recovery of being able to shower without anybody being present. So, you know, I still struggle with that today. I shower, I'm fine, but I'm always paranoid. I'm always scared somebody's going to ring my doorbell, and I don't know what I would do now. I don't. I have no clue what I would do if this situation happened to me again, and that freaks me out. But I do it. I've gotten to the point where I can, and we call that a win. The thing that I was going to talk about, sleeping, like Steve has to travel for work sometimes, not very often, and it's not an extended time. But I used to travel with him, and then it got to be so much. So what did I do? I called on my handy-dandy 16-year-old neighbor, Amber, and I said, you want to come spend the night? Yes, I'm sitting here at 25, 26 years old, and I had to have a 16-year-old basically come babysit me because I couldn't sleep in my house alone. And what was Amber going to do if somebody tried to break into my home in the middle of the night? I have no idea, but I felt better having someone there and just an extra person to be around. It wasn't so lonely and scary. So yeah, I relied on my 16-year-old neighbor to hang out with me and spend the night at my house when my husband was gone. You know, and that's hard. It's hard and it's embarrassing and it was hard to admit, but it is what it is, and that's how my life went for a really long time, like years, years and years it happened. And then, you know, we got pregnant and we had Payson, and I decided after Payson that I was sick of being overweight and miserable. This had nothing to do with the break-in, but it ties into it. So I started working out and changing my diet because I just was sick of being the way I was and looking the way I was. But what I realized very, very quickly is how much exercise was helping the anxiety and the PTSD. I didn't really know. You hear this, but until you experience it, you don't know. So when I started working out, I started with a lifting program, and I all of a sudden became very, like, I felt very strong, and it was giving me this sense of the ability to fight if I needed to. And I got this a little bit of confidence, like, okay, I'm getting myself in shape. I have a chance. I would have a fighting chance if somebody came after me. And mentally, it just was working really well for me. And when I felt very anxious and I was having a bad day, I would throw in some DVD or look on YouTube, and I would work out. And that energy that I was using that was stressful and causing me this anxiety, I would use all of that energy and put it into that exercise and that working out. And when I was done, I felt this, felt like a sense of calm. I didn't have energy to be anxious anymore. So exercise was basically my drug of choice at this point, because I didn't have to take medicine, but I was getting that relief that, a medication would probably do. And that's kind of how, I wouldn't say I'm addicted to exercise, but that's kind of how it became part of my life. Was I knew I needed it to deal with my anxiety on a regular basis if I didn't want to be on medicine. And it was kind of a phenomenal discovery, but that's kind of how the fitness in my life started and why I kept doing it. And so all of this happened, and we lived in this house for 4 years after it happened. And my counselor had asked if there was any way we could move, but we didn't have the funding to move, so we had to stay. And eventually I had to accept myself. I had to accept that this is where I'm at, this is who I am, these are the quirks that I'm going to be living with, and I had to accept that, and I had to be okay with that. I had gotten off the medications, and sometimes to this day there's periods of time where different stressors in my life, I definitely feel like I could benefit from medicine, but up until now I've gotten through these periods of time, even though they're not that fun, and gotten on the other side of that without using medicine. Again, I think I really put a lot of emphasis on exercise and nutrition being a big part of that for me. But I still struggle today. I still have moments where I go, maybe it's time. Steve and I talk about it, and he's like, maybe. But I just haven't really found a counselor here, and I haven't gone back since. I don't know. I'm a tough chick and don't really want to admit that sometimes I need help still. I think the best thing that's happened in our life is us moving. It's the day we locked our door for the last time at that house was the most refreshing feeling I have ever felt. It was like I had been holding those feelings and emotions in for so long, and the moment we locked that door after we sold it and it wasn't ours anymore, this weight was just lifted off my shoulders, and I felt like a completely different person. And we moved into this home, and we live in a beautiful neighborhood with really great neighbors, and it's a pleasant place to be. And I think that's been such a huge part of my recovery in the past 2 years. I feel like in the past 2 years I've come a really long way, and I think leaving that situation was the best thing that we could do, and probably the only thing that saved me from not literally driving myself insane. So that was a big part of it. But let me just tell you, I can sleep at home without Steve here. I don't really like it, but I can sleep here. But let me tell you how that looks now, because it's not just, hey girls, go to bed and, off to bed I go. Kind of looks like this. I close up the blinds as soon as it starts getting dark. My outside lights come on, the bars go under the door, the alarm is set, and I get the girls ready for bed as fast as I can. I try to get them to sleep. If they're not falling asleep quickly, sometimes I'll come downstairs and just turn the TV on. I basically have every light in my house on. Steve probably hates our electric bill. And when I'm ready for bed, I'll sit there and talk to Steve on the phone, and then I'll watch TV till about midnight or 1. And if you know me, I don't go to bed that late. But when he's not here, for some reason, I'm not ready to suck up the bravery I need to go to bed, so I stay up late. And before it's time for me to go to bed, and before I get off the phone with Steve, I come upstairs and I get one girl at a time, and I take them down to my bed, and every time he's gone, we have a slumber party. And I have all of my security measures in place, but I also lock my bedroom door and put a clothes basket in front of it. Now, don't ask me what I think this clothes basket in front of my door is going to do, but regardless of if it's useless or not, there's something inside my head that makes me feel like this is necessary. I also keep my keys by the bed because I do have pepper spray on it, and a car alarm so that, of course, I could turn my car alarm on if I got scared, which would wake up neighbors. But I think the basket is kind of one of those things where if all else fails and somebody's trying to get in my room, it would be one more noise to wake me up. But that's what it looks like when Steve goes away. These things happen every single time that Steve goes away. And until the girls are older, some of that is a fire-related fear. I don't want the responsibility of trying to get 2 kids down my stairs if there was a fire. So we just sleep in my room and have a slumber party, and they think it's great. You know, and things that I've improved on. I can go outside with my kids. I can go play outside. I, can be at my house alone now. I don't have to set my alarm all the time. I still choose to most of the time, but it's not something that I have to. Like, I can go all day and be like, oh, I never set my alarm. Like, high five to me. Because these are all achievements for me. These seem so silly, but these are all huge things for me. And, when it really comes down to how I've gotten to the place I am today, where I feel pretty confident in where I am, and I feel good about how far I've come. I might never get better than this. This might be it. And it is what it is. Like, it's my life. It's how I live. It's a little weird, and people might think I'm funny and silly and overprotective and overly cautious, but it's my life, and I don't really care what anybody thinks about it at this point. But I think the number one thing that got me to where I am is my faith, because I was brought up with God in my life, and, that hard time where college and you move and you don't have a church. Well, right after the break-in, we found a church from our neighbors. They invited us, and we found a church that we loved. And we got back involved with church. And I truly believe that God is solely what got me through this. Having friends and family and support is important. But literally, if it weren't for God, I would have never made it, because I sat there and would pray all day long. I literally, when they say, when you can't do it, God will pick you up and carry you. That was it, guys. Like, I literally basically threw myself and said, do this, because I can't move. Like, I'm paralyzed in fear, and you have to continue to move me through life until I can get a hold of myself. And I truly believe that is what has gotten me to where I am today. And, everybody keeps asking me, how do you do this? And the answer really is God. I pray all the time. He's gotten me through other hard things, especially recently, which is like a whole nother topic. But if it weren't for him, I don't know where I would be. I don't know. And, maybe you don't believe in God and you believe in something else, or you believe in good energy or whatever, but that's it. God is that for me. And it's with his help that I have made it to here and am able to function at a relatively normal level. And I'm finding that I'm not the only one that lives in this fear. And it exists in people that haven't even experienced what I did, and that makes me feel a little more normal sometimes and a little better. I actually was asked during this series of advice on what I use every day to feel secure enough to go on and live. So I'm not going to go through all of them. I've mentioned them here and there, but if you are interested in the things that I literally do every day and use in my life every day, check out my blog after I get this video posted and posted onto my blog. There's a list on there. The bars that I use under my door, I did put a link. I'm not getting paid for that link. I just wanted you guys to be able to see them and purchase them if you want. There's no affiliate of that. So if you're interested in all of those measures that I take to keep myself safe, they are on there. One specific thing that I was asked was, how do I go out in public? Because this happened at home, but definitely travels with safety into public and with my children. And the biggest thing I can say about being out in public is I am hyper aware of what's going on around me. I've always been very observant, but since this happened, you won't really see me on my cell phone ever when I'm in a store, unless I'm at Target using Cartwheel or trying to compare prices somewhere. So you really won't see me distracted by my phone. And if I am in a parking lot, you will never see me on my phone until I am in my car. I am always looking around me, like behind me, around me. I tell the girls, if they're walking, they have to be touching me. I just really pay attention to people I see, and everybody has that gut feeling of someone that scares you. I listen to those very strongly. And if I'm at all scared, I keep my kids with me until the very moment I get them in the car. and I actually put them in, climb in my car, lock my door, and buckle them, because when that feeling is so strong, it's better for me to look like a weirdo climbing through my car to buckle my kids than it is for me to have that fear and panic. It's easier for me to avoid that during those situations than to be worried the whole time. So no matter what I do, when I get in my car, the first thing I do is lock it, and I don't sit and look at Facebook or anything like that. These are tips that go around everywhere, and I've just really taken those to heart. And when I'm out in public, I really just pay attention to my surroundings. I try not to be distracted by the things around me, by technology, and I just, I say hi to people, I'm friendly, and I go about my day. At home, it's a little more intense. There's a lot more detail into my day and what I use, but I did share that in my blog, so go check it out. Write it down if you want. And guys, I am more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have for me about this, tips. Just feel free to message me, comment, ask me a question. I don't care, just whatever. And I am more than happy to talk about it. If I didn't answer something you were really wanting to know about, just let me know and we can have a conversation. But thank you guys so much. Seriously, thank you so much for the support you've given me during this. This has been very freeing, and I hope that you got something out of it. And if you know anybody that's struggling, please feel free to share any of these and send them my way if they need help. I would be happy to chat with anybody about this. So you guys have a fantastic day. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.